And what impressed me was not only the campus, but actually the commitment of your law teachers that you're going to be taught by, and also the zeal for learning of the students, which are the community that you will join. I think, as Madam Dean has just said, that we all speak to each other now in very different times. To think that 8 months ago, I was in India amongst you with no concern of any pandemic, and more importantly, no concern whatsoever of how the world would be disrupted. But as your wise Madam Dean has just said, this is the age of disruption. And I dare say that by the time that you graduate 5 years from now in 2025, the world again will be a different place. It will have been disrupted time and time again. But I think that is the challenge for your generation, and a challenge that you should embrace. So at the start of your legal journey, allow me, if I may, to extend warm greetings from the United Kingdom and from my own university, the University of Hull, to you. I say that because your university, the university that you're now a member of, and my university, and many other universities, including those of Professor Barnes and others, we all unite in one banner, the banner of global law. And one thing is for certain, as you start and commence your legal studies journey, that you will become global lawyers, and the law requires an engagement with the globe. And more importantly, global law shows no boundaries. And I can say that because the pandemic has taught us many things in higher education, to which Madam Dean has already alluded. But the one thing that the pandemic has taught us is a pandemic knows no boundaries. And so the message there is that law also shows no boundaries. So I see that as not a challenge for you, but actually an exciting opportunity for you all. So as you go through your legal journey, which you start today with your orientation, I think there are 5 clear things that you should remember on this journey. Firstly, to always be yourself. As a law student, as a person, as a member of the global community, diversity is a rich thing. Diversity is something that should be celebrated, and consequently, always be yourself. Secondly, I think you should have pride in your resilience. You are the generation that has seen the most changes in the shortest possible time. And so your resilience is already inbuilt. Wherever you are from, whatever communities you belong to, you have shown resilience. And I think resilience, as all my fellow lawyers, my learned friends would agree, is critical in the journey that you have ahead. Thirdly, and I think most importantly, is to be open to ideas. Knowledge is a wonderful thing. Knowledge is powerful. But at the same time, knowledge enables you to be free and enables you to do what you want to do. It also enables others. So I think that is critical at the start of any legal journey. Fourthly, I think it's critical for you all to remember that whilst you are gathering knowledge, it's your responsibility to use it wisely. And there will be challenging points in your legal studies where you find things difficult. I can speak personally that I was never a property lawyer. I never wished to be a property lawyer, and I found it terribly difficult. But I got over that barrier, that hindrance, and made for a better outcome. So do not expect on this journey to be excellent at everything. But the good thing about that is that you will find your place, and you will find the subject that you love the most and the passion that it gives you to go on to be senior counsel or whatever after your legal studies. And so do not be afraid of the difficulties or the challenges. Lastly, allow me to say that in terms of your journey, it is critical for you to remember that there needs to be an outcome. Every journey has a destination. It is pointless embarking upon a journey if you do not know where you will end up. And so it is important on this journey that you consider and think about where you want to be, what lawyer you want to be, whether you want to be a lawyer or not. As Madam Dean has said in a very generous introduction, that I am the Dean of a faculty of Business, Law and Politics. And Madam Dean has emphasised that the university that you join, the law school that you join, also operates within a multidisciplinary framework. And that is very exciting for you all. It means that you will have friends beyond your law friends. It means you will have opportunities to study beyond law. And I would endorse and urge you all to explore those opportunities. As a Dean of a Faculty of Business, Law and Politics, the interaction that I see between the future political leaders and the future lawyers and the future business leaders and entrepreneurs is dynamic. And like all law schools across the globe, we do interact interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary with other disciplines. And you will find in law that you will interact with other particular areas of expertise. That said, your university, my university, and many others across the globe, in fact, across 160 different countries, we are members of the International Association of Law Schools. That association enables both law teachers and law students to share law across the globe, to be understanding of each other's comparative law. And so I would urge you all in your legal journeys over the next 5 years to take as much opportunity as is possible to learn more about the world around you in terms of comparative law. And your law school will certainly enable you to do that. And I would urge you to grasp that opportunity. I would also urge you to grasp the opportunity of advocacy. You have a wonderful courtroom facility at your university. You have connections with some wonderful lawyers in your community. And I think that is the aspiration of every law student across the world, to learn how to stand up and argue on their feet and to learn from those that do it each and every day. And again, your university is well placed to provide that opportunity and to train you to become a future advocate. I wanted to share with you, last of all, something that I mentioned when I last visited in February earlier this year. I went to university nearly 30 odd years ago, 3 decades ago, 100 years before me. A certain Mahatma Gandhi went to the same university and sat in the same lecture theatre. That university is University College, London. One thing I learned from sitting in the same seats that Gandhi sat in, albeit 100 years to the day later, was that law might change, students might change, law teachers might change, but humanity never changes. And to that exact point, one thing that you will learn, as was said earlier, is respect for yourself, respect for others, respect for your community, and the responsibility that you have as a law student, a lawyer, and for some of you later on in life, a judge. Those responsibilities are high responsibilities, but we only learn to cope with those responsibilities from undertaking the journey that you're about to begin for the next 5 years. Because over the next 5 years, you will embrace self-respect, you will embrace respect for others, and responsibility for yourselves, your community, and the world ahead. I hope that that has inspired you to rethink the start of your journey, to prepare you for your journey. And all that is left for me is to say it is an honor to be with you at the start of your journey, and I look forward to celebrating your success and achievement with you at the end of your journey, along with your law tutors, your vice chancellor, and your friends and family. And friends and family will be important to you on this journey, as will your university, as will your law tutors. But for my part, I wish you all happiness and a productive journey for the next 5 years ahead. Namaste.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful lecture. Moving on, we have with us Mr. Gopal Shankar Narayan. Mr. Gopal Shankar Narayan has completed his BA LLB honours from the National Law School of India, Bangalore, post which he went on to do his Masters in Criminology, Theoretical Criminology, and International Law of Armed Conflict from the London School of Economics and Political Science. He joined as a lecturer of media law at the Convergence Institute of Mass Media and Information Technology. He's been serving as an advocate in Supreme Court of India for more than 16 years and was elevated to the senior advocate in the year 2019. His main areas of practice are civil and criminal appellate practices, with special interest in constitutional law, environment, and human rights. We welcome you, sir. I would now like to invite you to address the gathering. Please, sir.
Thank you very much. Can I ask if my audio is clear?
Yes, yes.
Absolutely, sir. It is.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, first of all, to Professor Pokhriyal, Vice Chancellor Singh, Dr. Anup Prasad, and all of you in the Nirma University community and family for having me here today. My previous visit to Nirma was about 2 years ago in pre-COVID days, and I was quite touched by the hospitality and generosity with which I was greeted. The students of Nirma have always had a special place in my heart. I've had many of them as interns, etc. And I've always felt so happy to see so many young, enthusiastic, and confident young lawyers in the making coming and trying their hand at appellate practice. And it's incredibly encouraging under your stewardship that this is happening. I look forward, obviously, to engage with them again in future in a different format from the ones that we have at the moment. Now, once we are done with this session, somebody in the Institute's staff is going to have some explaining to do as to how this invitation came to me. Because not only are there many truly more capable and more eminent counsels, senior and otherwise, who could possibly be engaging with all of you right now, but also the fact that I feel dwarfed when I'm sandwiched between the two Stephens. Professor Barnes and Professor Hardy have a substantially eminent standing in the international community. And anybody who looks at this invitation is going to wonder who's that guy in the middle. But I'm not one to look a gift horse in the mouth. And since you have been kind enough to extend this invitation to me, I will step in. It's very possible that you had some other Stephen who was going to be the third speaker, maybe Stephen King. But since I have stepped in, I will try to horrify your crowd in the same manner. Now, the task before me, I perceive, is an unenviable one. Because I have to speak to hundreds of eager young minds who have to embark on their undergraduate journey. It is not only an opportunity to share my thoughts, but it is also a huge responsibility, because I realize how impressionable one would be when you're embarking from the safe cocoons of hearth and home and stepping out into university education of 5 years. The 5-year journey has been of not great vintage in India when you have a combined degree, and that's been around only for about 30 years. I went through one myself, and I realized how you aren't very sure when you start the journey whether this is what you really want to wind up doing for the rest of your life. But I choose to touch upon one issue that has been very personal to me and has had a huge impact on me and my journey. And I think I can only speak really for myself and not for others, because my journey has been an extremely personal one, as it will be for all of you. And that overarching factor for me has been serendipity. That lots of things, good things, happen to me by pure chance. It was by pure chance that I was born and brought up in a cosmopolitan city like Bangalore. And it was by pure chance that I went to a Protestant institution which placed a huge premium on sports, on teamwork, on working in groups. Unfortunately, I was too young to realize that I was in an all-boys school, and it was only much later that I wondered why I could not be in a co-education institution. But that's how things were right then. It was by pure chance that a law university was set up in that very city, the first law university which had a 5-year course. It was also by pure chance that I happened to apply to that university at a time when there weren't many other law universities of that ilk. And it was not very difficult to get in. There were only about 2,000 students who sat for that exam then to get in. This year, as we've seen, there were nearly 70,000 people vying for seats across the universities, including Nirma University. And I had occasion in my professional capacity to deal with the challenge to the exam that all of you have cleared and managed to make through. And when I went through the papers, I must confess, I was really taken aback, because if I were to sit and do this exam now, I very gravely doubted that I would have gotten into Nirma University or even into top 10,000, because I think there's a huge amount of competition. There's a high level of reading and learning that is required, and a great amount of discipline that is expected. And I think I was grossly lacking in all those when I embarked. And I suspect all of you must be wondering that this must be something that was extremely difficult back in the day, but it wasn't. It was also by chance that I was brought up by a very strong-minded woman who taught me to respect women and regard them highly. I am now a father of 3, 2 girls and a boy, and I make it my daily routine to ensure that not only the girls, but more importantly the boy, are taught the importance of equality and fraternity, principles that we find in the preamble to our Constitution. I want them to understand that gender means absolutely nothing as far as we are concerned. It's only respect for the individuals that matters. It was also by chance that I discovered that there were only particular areas of law that I had a specific interest in. I was a fairly bottom of the class student when it came to contract law, and I was somewhere in the middle when it came to civil procedure, and I was all right in criminal law. But I want all of you to remember that when you embark on this 5-year journey in sailing on the high seas of law, don't be overwhelmed and overawed by the idea of CGPAs and grades and marks. It's something that one has been trained to believe in and placed great premium on. But I want you to understand that it has its place. There is a perspective for you to look at. Over these 5 years, you are growing not only as a student, you're growing from childhood to being a full-fledged adult. It is in this transformation that all of you will have to grapple with many challenges. find new ways of expressing yourself. And I think I completely agree with what Professor Hardy had mentioned about you not changing yourself. Try not to change yourself, because your identity is so personal to you, and it's important that you retain who you are. Allow yourself to be infused by the influences around you, which are good and positive, but don't try and live up to ideals which are not yours. I also believe that there are many, many events that will take place in your lives in college, which will come back to hold you in good stead in the years to come. With me, it was very strange. I loved cricket, and it's something that I played a lot. I captained my university as well. But I didn't expect that 20 years later, I would be the secretary to the Justice Lodha Committee, which attempted reforms of cricket within the BCCI. It was a Supreme Court appointed committee. I didn't expect that even while I played hockey in both the colleges that I went to, that I would be dealing with issues concerning hockey administration, including a case which is listed this afternoon in the High Court of Delhi. Now, there are many, many events in your life which you won't realize is actually stitching up to something that will happen much later on. It was by chance that when I started my practice in the Supreme Court, and I worked with the senior advocate, Mr. Venugopal, who's today India's Attorney General, that I met this girl. She was my senior from college, and she was my colleague, and we hadn't spoken much when we were in college at all. And today she's my wife. We both practice independent of each other, but she's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I think many of these events will take place in your life over the next 5 years. And it's only my few suggestions that I have based on these experiences where serendipity plays such a big role, where you must remember that you can't control everything. There is so much that you cannot control. And that is why you must learn sometimes to let go and realize that things will happen to you, and it's okay. Many of them will be good, some of them will be not so good, but these are both sets of episodes from which you will learn. Now, based on what I went through, I have some points of advice, essentially. My own teachers, both in school and college, will be shocked that I'm meting out advice to anybody. But I feel that it's something worth sharing. The first one is, I would recommend that you try everything once, as long as it doesn't harm you or others. Give it a shot. You may never have played a sport, you may never have danced, you may never have sung a song, you may never have taken part in a inter-school or inter-college competition, you may never have learned how to change a car tire, you may never have traveled and hiked into the hills. Try all of that. Because remember that after you finish this, your undergraduate education, there's a good chance that the opportunities for anything else are going to be few and far between. So this 5 years is for you to enjoy. It's for you to learn, but it's also for you to enjoy while you do it. I know many of my friends who spent too much of their lives taking it too seriously in college, and today look back with regret saying, look, those were the best years of our lives. And we missed that. We missed trying out new types of food. We missed taking care of ourselves and playing sport and being fit and things like that. So keep that in mind. The second, try, and I know I sound like Ellen DeGeneres when I say this, but be kind to one another. I think there isn't enough kindness in the world. I think we're always looking to one-upmanship with other people and try to put others down and try to be arrogant about who we are. If you ever stand in the mountains in the Himalayas, you actually look up and you realize how completely and utterly insignificant you are. You could be the president of the most powerful nation in the world, but you're completely insignificant in the cosmic scheme of things. Which is why when you feel proud about something you have achieved, understand that it's good to have a certain amount of pride. But to be arrogant about that is completely misplaced. Um, to the boys, I would say, like I've said earlier, that please respect uh, the girls, the women. Our country has taken a beating repeatedly over the last few years, especially about how we have not been most fair and just with the fairer sex. And it's very, very unfortunate. All of you are going to be thought leaders of the future. And as students of a liberal education, I think you must understand that it's most important for everybody to move together, arm in arm. Women can be your buddies, your pals, your friends. Not every relationship is romance. I think, as far as the girls themselves are concerned, and I've noticed this as well, you must understand that it's necessary for you not to put down anybody else. Very often, I've found that, at least even my own experiences at the bar, that when some one or two women are doing well, you'll find others trying to pull them down. I don't think that works. You have to acknowledge publicly, encourage, applaud others of your own ilk. And that's very, very important. As lawyers, you're going to learn to be always contesting and arguing with others about things or points of view that you don't agree with. But you must learn to be tolerant of those points of view. That's one of the basic underpinnings, not only in a life in the law, but in virtually anything else. You may disagree with what they're saying, but it's very, very important for you. I think you have to understand that empathy is also very, very important. You need to be in a position where you can accept other people's points of view, and sometimes you have no idea what they're going through. And you need to therefore be in a position where you can convey to them that, look, I understand. Even if I have a disagreement with you, they may be having their own personal difficulties. There may be a disease in the family. There may be a financial crisis. These are things that you don't know about. So when you disagree with the person, you're really disagreeing with their thoughts, not with them as human beings. And if they are harsh to you or if they're unkind, there's possibly a reason behind it. It's not very often that you'll see it, but there possibly is a reason. I would also advise, and I think this is most important at this time of our lives, that you're the generation that's essentially going to be trusted with taking care of our environment. Please embrace nature. Tomorrow, it's people like you who are going to be at the forefront of agitations and legal causes to protect our trees, our water, our air. And we want you to appreciate and understand what it is that we're trying to preserve and protect for generations to come. Take time off from devices. We spend too much time, especially during COVID, on screen, on the phones, and in front of our computers. I know the irony that we're doing this like this, but I think you should try and take some time off and do something completely different. Spend a couple of hours a day away from devices, or a day a week away from devices, and you'll actually see that you're opening up your mind to so many other things which it can be occupied with. Your imagination can run riot beyond the confines of being online. Most important, I think, when you're sitting here in 5 years' time, don't be worried that you don't have a plan. I wasn't sure I wanted to do this, which I'm doing, counsel practice, till I was nearly 27. About 4 years into practice, in fact, I took 2 years off. I just quit law. And I drove, I traveled, I wrote for nearly a year and a half before I decided, okay, I think this is something I could come back to. So don't be scared when you finish 5 years and you say, look, I'm not sure I wanted to do the law. It's okay. There are hundreds of people who have done law and not gone ahead with practicing law thereafter. The foundation you get at the Institute of Law is something which is substantial, which will hold you in good stead for many, many fields. So don't be nervous about this. Just enjoy and learn, spend time, make friends. These friends that you're going to make over the next 5 years are going to be your friends for life, I can assure you, because that was the way it was with me. When you're on a campus, those are your friends for life. You've had You will have experiences that you don't want to swap. You'll pick up tools that you can use in virtually any department. I have a friend of mine who was a Rhodes Scholar, in fact, who decided to sell um, kebab rolls on a out of a small store in London. I know somebody else who decided to go and set up a mattress selling business. So it's not imperative that you're going to go and just practice law, but these tools are going to hold you in good stead always. Also, remember how very fortunate you are. There are millions of people, not only in India, but across the world, who are plagued with disease and with hunger and being in areas of conflict. You're not one of them. You're very, very fortunate to have reached a level where you can have a collegiate education without a huge loan hanging over your head. So consider yourself blessed. Um, I have two small points of advice, if I may, for the faculty as well. Remember that I know that the faculty is absolutely amazing, but I can also imagine the kind of pressures and challenges that you face. Therefore, I would just request you to reach in for your inner reserves of patience and understanding when you're dealing with these children. To them, they are you are their parents, and to you, they are like your children. They have left their families and come to you to guide them into adulthood. It's not really just a teaching engagement. It's so much more than that. And I have seen that when I've come to the campus, and I've seen how much more caring um, and it's familial, the experience that I saw the students have. I would just hope that that would abide. Um, I can imagine that there will be many trespasses from your students. They will make poor choices. There will be ideas of rebellion, but you must forgive and permit those things to happen, because I think that's what keeps the melting pot of the university system alive. Eventually, whatever they do, all the achievements will be yours. The credit for that will entirely be yours. Um, to conclude, I want to tell your students that 50 years ago, a, a young man with a bachelor's of science in chemistry, who came from a very humble background, took to cycling through neighborhoods to sell his homemade detergent. Many of the homemakers, housewives of the time, loved the fact that this washing powder cost only 3 rupees a kilo, while the big companies, Procter and Gamble and Unilever, were selling their detergents for 12, 13, 14 rupees. And this man went house to house on his bicycle. Today, Karsanbhai Patel's industry is worth $6 billion. But much more valuable than any of that, in my view, is the priceless talent that his university, the one that he has set up, Nirma, is putting out into the world. We are truly enriched to have all of you as the standard bearers of this generation. And I'm confident that whatever each of you wind up doing inside the law or out, you will make us all very proud. Thank you once again for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for such a thought provoking, realistic, and such an insightful lecture. It was a pleasure to hear you. Moving on, I would now like to introduce our guest of honor, Professor Stephen G. Barnes. Professor Barnes is an Assistant Dean of Graduate and International Programs, Penn State Law. Pennsylvania University, USA oversees LLM and SJD admissions. Before his appointment, Mr. Barnes lived for 8 years in China, where he was a visiting law professor at the China University of Political Science and Law in Beijing, and also served as a Penn State Law China Programs Director. Steve is proficient in French, Chinese, and Swedish and is energized by the cultural diversity that talented international students bring to the Penn State Law. His Juris Doctor is from the University of Oregon. His MBA is from the George Washington University, and he has done his BA from the Brigham Young University. We welcome you, sir. We would pleased to have you address the students, sir.
Namaste. Adania Atitigan aur Nirma University ke mire priya chatro o mitro. Mere desregar Ahmedabad. Mayap sabi kodir kar. Mujhe bahut anand hua. I was speaking Hindi and not Chinese or Swedish or French, and I hope you were able to understand that. Director General Anup Singh, Director Pudri Pokarial, who is my only sister, and she lives in Ahmedabad. Dean Arun Pasad, Counselor Sri Gopal Sankar Anarayanan, Dean Arun Pasad, Dean Stephen Hardy, and other distinguished guests, and most of all to you, our students, each and all of you, first-year learners in this distinguished law school. Thank you for the great honor to join you on this first day of your legal training that will not only shape you, but your families, your communities, India, and the world. For some of your seniors, I might be a familiar, if not too familiar face, because I visited or resided here in Nirma, in Ahmedabad, perhaps 10 times in the past 6 years. And to all of my colleagues and friends and family, I proudly proclaim Ahmedabad as my second home. Or more intimately, this city, Ahmedabad, is where this American passport holder with an Indian soul trapped within, and perhaps my true name is Gopal and not Stephen. It's a place that I call home. This American, yours truly, is well aware that today, virtually, I am gathered in a dynamic, modern land, but the cradle of a great ancient civilization, India, where great writers, philosophers, poets, and humanists have shaped not only India, but the world. The Gita, the Bengali writer Tagore, and of course, Gandhi Ji immediately come to mind. And on this virtual dais, I am also accompanied by Dean Stephen Hardy, who hails from the UK, the land of Shakespeare, Browning, Tennyson, and Thomas Hardy, and perhaps a relation to Dean Hardy, I don't know, and many others. So I boldly, if not naively, share with you the poem of a new kid on the block, American poet Robert Frost of the 20th century, to guide me in my short remarks today. Frost's poem is titled The Road Not Taken. And it goes like this. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and perhaps having the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So what is meant by the road not taken? Like all good passages of literature or lyrics of a song, they have a different meaning for each reader or listener based on personal interpretation. Quite literally, I, a resident and trail runner in the Appalachian Mountains of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in the United States, I have found that by taking the less traveled trail off the beaten path, that's where the beauty and adventure is. The less traveled trail might be more arduous, challenging, but the rewards are greater than the main road. I have tried to apply this poem in my own life as a promotion or an encouragement to do the unconventional. Take a leap of faith. Give it a try. Take the risk. Or perhaps even more to the point, trust my instincts no matter what the others might say. Or be different. Make a difference. Several unconventional law students who were first-year law students, just like you, took the road less traveled. Let me cite a few, if I may. First, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. An untouchable by birth, he became a founding father of India by taking the road less traveled. In childhood, his family shifted from place to place and eventually to Mumbai, where he attended Elphinstone College and graduated with a bachelor's degree in English and in Persian, no less. Then he worked for the Maharaja in Baroda, just up from Ahmedabad. So impressed by Ambedkar, the Maharaja financed this lower caste member on a road very less traveled to Columbia University in New York City, where he earned a master's degree and PhD. Then his road journey took him not back to India, but to London, where he studied at the London School of Economics. His gift of persuasion and his knowledge of politics and economics qualified him as a barrister, the founder of a college, and eventually catching the attention and respect of a rival, Gandhiji, who recommended him to be appointed to the Constitution Drafting Committee, becoming the chairman and independent China's first law minister. A Dalit, an Indian college graduate, then American and British graduate degree holder and barrister, he took the road less traveled to become one of the founding fathers of independent India. Second, Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, America's first African-American Supreme Court Justice. He also took the road less traveled. Born in Baltimore and earning his law degree at unranked and historically Black university, Howard University Law School. He started a private law practice and then became an executive director of the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP, where he took the unpopular cases. Read, he took the less traveled cases, where he took on the white establishment to pull down one by one the inhumane laws of segregation, including segregation in public education. President John Kennedy appointed him to the US Court of Appeals, and his successor, President Johnson, to the US Supreme Court, where his majority opinions, and especially now his dissenting opinions, are cited to this very day in United States courts. A minority from a non-world ranked law school to private practice to the executive director of an NGO, these curving, jagged roads less traveled, prepared him to a Supreme Court appointment. Third, Nelson Mandela. South Africa's first elected president was trained as a lawyer. Like Marshall, Mandela had a promising career as a litigator, but he abandoned improved economic standing to become an activist, an NGO leader in a struggle for justice. This rewarded him with 27 years of imprisonment on Robben Island, an eventual release, and he, through this experience, became the leader of an opposition party that eventually defeated apartheid. And through his lawyer negotiation skills, a non-violent transfer of power, and then elected as the first democratically elected president of the new Republic of South Africa. Fourth, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or as we call her here, RBG. The first Jewish woman, and only the second woman to be seated on the US Supreme Court. A young mother, she enrolled at Harvard Law School among the very few women in her class. She transferred to Columbia Law School, met up and researched with a prominent Swedish jurist, and this collaboration would have a profound shape on her approach to gender equality under the law. Every single rejection from law firms due to her gender and her faith, even with a letter of recommendation in hand from the Harvard Law School dean, only emboldened her, leading her to less navigated, less traveled roads, and shaping her as the jurist that she was. And now in the United States, we feel Justice RBG's impact on gender rights. So learners, these you might agree are outliers of the average topper law student. And indeed they are. No doubt Ambedkar, Marshall, Mandela, and RBG could have succeeded in obtaining more material wealth by being conventional. But they chose the road less traveled, and they changed communities, nations, and the world. Could one of you be an Ambedkar, a Marshall, or a Mandela, or an RBG? Absolutely. There is no ceiling for you. You can reach their heights, but only if you, just like them, take the road less traveled. You might not be the next president or Supreme Court justice, member of parliament, or managing partner in a corporate law firm, but you can make a difference in your communities by making a difference in yourself by the choices you make while you are here at the Nirma University Institute of Law. May I offer just 4 simple recommendations? Number 1, meet as many classmates, both contemporary and senior, as you can from different regions, cultures, preferences, and religions as you can. If you were raised in Gujarat state, make sure you become acquainted with your mate from Bihar. If you're from Uttar Pradesh, join a study group with a once unknown classmate from Orissa. If from one religious persuasion, work with and become friends with and mates with another. You have 5 precious years to meet persons from the kaleidoscope of what is India. With apologies to my fellow faculty friends, and I believe they would agree, I offer this provocative statement. If you are all in, totally vested as a law student, you will learn more from your different classmates than you will from your professors. Let me repeat it again. Simply, if you are totally vested as a law student, you will learn more from your classmates than you will from your professors, and your professors will learn more from you than you do from them. Great law schools, like Nirma University's Institute of Law, promotes and nurtures this. Your mates, just like you, have taken the less traveled road. Meet them at the crossroads and chart another road together. Number 2, take the class you thought you'd never take. If you're absolutely certain you're going to prepare yourself for a corporate law firm, because that's what you're dead set on doing, or your parents want you to do this, take the environmental law course or gender and justice course. These perspectives will make you a better corporate litigator. Or you might be inspired to change course, learning that your passions could be outside the corporate world. This will save you 5, 10, or 15 years of professional dissatisfaction and direct you to that field where your true passion lies. Number 3, volunteer for student and community service organizations. If you see a posting for volunteers, make an inquiry. If there are elections for leaders, run for office. Leadership training is there for the having without even knowing you signed up for a class in leadership. And as a lawyer, as an officer of the court, you have the duty, not the convenience, to serve the local community. Or I would say, bill your clients years from now, but right now, invest your time voluntarily in the community right now, starting today. Number 4, become acquainted with every international visitor that lands on campus at Nirma University. If a Croatian, a Swede, and a Brit, or an African, or Peruvian, a German, a Chinese, a Russian, a Swede, a Norwegian, a Mongolian, a Bangladeshi, they all come to Nirma now. Or if even the more common Brit or American, if they come to campus and you see them in the canteen, introduce yourself, strike up a conversation, learn about them, tell them about yourself. You want to know why? Because each representative comes with a portfolio of scholarships and exchange student opportunities. Or if they don't, they'll refer you to someone in their institution that does. And I would cite Professor Kritika as exactly that person. 3 years ago, she was in the canteen, and then 1 year later, she was right here in this very classroom where I am, where she was taking an exam, an antitrust exam. That is a perfect example. So you worked very hard, and so did your families, to earn this placement in Nirma. Your academic opportunity exceeds any of the opportunities earned by Ambedkar, Marshall, Mandela, and RBG. So my humble view is this: each of these former first-year law students might agree with lowly me about these 4 suggestions. Number 1, meet as many classmates, both contemporary and senior, as you can from different regions, cultures, preferences, and religions as you can during your 5 years at Nirma. Number 2, take the class that you thought you'd never take. Number 3, volunteer for student and community service organizations. And 4th and final, I would suggest that these 4 recommendations are worthy of your consideration. Your 5 years will go by quickly. They will go by in a flash. Make the most of them. Take the road less traveled. This century, I truly believe, belongs to India. The pandemic has slowed down the world, equalized countries both fairly and unfairly. There's no better time to be a law student than right now in India at Nirma University, here at the Institute of Law. So learners, go and get the prize. Take the road less traveled. I wish you all the very best in your next 5 years here in my home of Ahmedabad on the campus of Nirma University at the Institute of Law. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve, sir. Thank you so much for such an ingenious and such an insightful take on why people should actually mingle up with everybody else. I think they are going to take it forward from here. Thank you so much once again. Moving on, we have with us Dr. Anup K. Singh. Dr. Anup K. Singh has completed his PhD from University of Allahabad and postdoctoral fellowship from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Sir was a visiting scholar at the J. L. Kellogg Graduate School of Business Administration, Northwestern University, Evanston. Sir has held various top management and administrative positions in organizations of repute. Sir has many publications to his credit, comprising books, research papers in international and national journals, case studies, book chapters, in addition to the paper presentations at international level. Sir is recipient of various awards for his teaching and learning excellence. We are indeed honored to have you amongst us, sir. We welcome you. I would now like to invite Anup K. Singh, sir, to kindly address the gathering. Uh, he should be able to join us shortly. Uh, Anup, sir, can you please unmute yourself? We are unable to hear you.
Yeah, just a minute. Yeah. Am I audible now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so first of all, on behalf of Nirma University, I'd like to thank uh, Professor Hardy, Professor Barnes, and Advocate Shankar Narayanan to bless our students on this occasion. It is a rare occasion because we have people from 3 continents, right? And they are here to bless the students who are going to start their studies in the field of law. Secondly, I'd like to congratulate all those students who could make it to the Institute of Law. It is a rare achievement because at the Institute of Law, we get cream de la cream, and they carry our flag in the judicial world, in the legal world. So we are proud of you. And thirdly, I'd also like to congratulate faculty, who were working very hard in this pandemic to see to it that everything goes smoothly. A lot of words of wisdom have come from our guests. Professor Hardy, he talked about his experiences and his expectations from you. We owe a lot of debt to Great Britain, from where we have taken our legal system. So the legal institutions, the courts, the procedures that we have, a lot of that has come from Great Britain, and we have enriched that tradition. I'm also reminded of my childhood when I read that poem by Robert Frost that Professor Barnes shared, and that touched me. I think everybody should read it, I think every semester, because that gives you a new insight about life. It gives you courage. Professor Barnes is a dear friend of Nirma University, and every time I listen to him, I'm really moved, right? So that is characteristic of a great teacher, that he moves you. I'm thankful to Gopal, who shared, with the new students the charm of being in a law school, and what you can do and what you should not do, right? And keep those things in mind. I'm not from your fraternity. I was trained as a psychologist, but I was wondering that we have got so many students. They belong to different parts of India. They belong to different communities. They belong to different linguistic groups. They belong to different communities. They belong to different social strata. What binds them? What makes them one, right? Is it the language? We are not one language country. There are 22 official languages. What binds them? Religion? No, we are not one religion country. There are so many religions, right? What binds them? Social strata? No. We have probably the worst poverty on the earth in this country, and we have many billionaires in this country, right? But one thing that binds all of you, my dear students, is the Constitution of India. And it binds not only you, but each and every person of this country. And the Constitution of India has a wonderful preamble, which is, our morning prayer, and talks about justice. So you have come for law education, but eventually you have met a friend known as justice, right? So in Hindi, there is a word for justice, that is dharma. The translation of dharma is not religion. The translation of dharma is justice. And the preamble talks about three kinds of justice. And among them, probably the most important is social justice, right? We are brothers and we are here to help each other. We are in the same boat, brother, right? So that is very important. If there is no social justice, there cannot be any other justice. However, we also need to realize that justice is a journey, and old people like us, we have played our role. Now it is your chance to play your role. And then it talks about economic justice, right? It is not important to have a national prosperity only. It is equally important to see that the prosperity is shared by all. The economic opportunity is shared by all. And of course, there is a political justice. So all sections of society, they must have political justice. Now, then it talks about liberty and liberty of thought, expression, and they are very important because that makes us human. Animals don't have liberty of thought. Animals don't have liberty of expression. Animals don't have a liberty of faith, right? And if you want to be human, you need to have these liberties, and we also need to allow others to have these liberties, right? So my submission to you is, and you are free to accept it or to reject it, right? Because you also have liberty for that. That you have come for law education, learn law, but remember that you are there for justice. The second thing that I want you to share with you, that we live in a world where new findings are coming, new insights are coming. And Professor Barnes were talking that you should take courses in other fields. Gopal also talked about it. I would submit to you that, by the time you come to the second year of your study, you would be too much involved with law. So what you need to do in the first year, I'm going to share with you. Again, you may accept it, you may reject it. This country was led by Mahatma Gandhi, and he was a law graduate. You must read his book, My Experiments with Truth. If anybody who has not read it, and that shows that how to own yourself, right? So Alexander Pope said, know thyself, own thyself, and change thyself. And that's what Gandhi did through his book, My Experiments with Truth. Then we had another lawyer, another advocate, Jawaharlal Nehru, who was also the first Prime Minister of India. You must read his book, Discovery of India. Maybe you know his first 60 pages are not very interesting because he talks about his journey in Ahmednagar jail, but you can ignore those first 60 pages, and after that, when you come to the real essence of the book, every law students must read it, because you can't separate law, justice, and India. The third is you must read B.R. Ambedkar, and Professor Barnes was mentioning about him. He did his master thesis on East India Company in London, right? So he was a sociologist, he was a political scientist, he was a philosopher, right? And read at least any 2 books of B.R. Ambedkar. If you want to understand social justice and you have not read B.R. Ambedkar, you have not understood this society, right? So that is very, very important. Equally important is that you should go beyond India and read at least biography of Abraham Lincoln. And he is a fantastic human being, who knew how to convert weaknesses into strength and how to bring about a transformative change in the society. You must read him, right? And of course, Professor Barnes shared with you some other people. If you have time, do read about them. So complete that in the first year. Don't leave it for second year, because in second year, probably you would be more intelligent. And sometimes, intelligence creates a lot of problem. The third thing that I want to share with you, that you must see what other disciplines are doing in the field of law. So as a psychologist, I read about law and psychology, and I found something very interesting, that the behavior of lawyers and judges are predictable. So there was one very interesting finding, that what happens 1 hour before lunch and what happens 1 after our lunch. So if an advocate is going to the judge and requesting for bail 1 hour before the lunch, then the probability is less that he will get the bail. But if he goes to the judge after lunch within 1 hour, the probability is more that his client would get the bail. And it is to do with human psychology, right? Another very interesting finding is that judges can be predictable, and therefore, the advocates know when to go to which judge, right? Because they know what is the thinking process of that judge, right? So if you are able to understand some of those factors very well, then you can practice it much better, your profession. And lastly, psychology sometimes can be very disturbing. And I read recently a very disturbing finding. The more literate people are, the richer people are, the lesser empathy they have, right? So, if you have masters, right, you are more intellectual, and as a masters, you make much more money than those people who are high school graduate. But at the same time, the level of empathy also goes down. And that is dangerous. So if you ignore everything because I gave you liberty, you can ignore it, but don't ignore this thing that we are human beings. We need human beings. Sometimes we require their empathy. And as Gopal was also telling, and sometimes they require our empathy, right? Just because we are going to be, and you are privileged, right? Because you have your education and you are going to be much better than your fellow citizens. Never, go a situation where you lose your empathy. With these words, again, I congratulate the incoming students and wish them 5 years of joy, study, contributions, and success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful address. Moving on, I would now like to invite Professor Dr. Arun Prasad for a vote of thanks.
Namaste. Good afternoon to one and all present here. It's a wonderful occasion where we are orienting ourselves, finding our direction, and the presence of stalwarts, experts, and leaders has made the day very, very special and memorable. Chief guest of the function, Professor Hardy, esteemed barrister, Judge and Dean, Faculty of Business, Law and Politics, Hull University. Guest of Honor, Sri Gopal Shankar Narayanan, Senior Counsel, Supreme Court of India. Guest of Honor, Professor Stephen Barnes, Assistant Dean, Graduate and International Programs, Penn State University. An Indian at heart, Gandhian at core. हमें हमेशा बहुत आनंद होता है Professor Barnes. Whenever we meet you, it's a wonderful occasion. I've been constantly learning from you. Your sister, Dr. Purvi, also misses you. ILNU team is wanting to see you again. Wonderful meeting you again, Professor Barnes. Director General, Nirma University, Dr. Anup K. Singh, our visionary leader and life coach. Definitely, he is my guru. Thank you, sir, for being there on this occasion. Thank you all for your valuable time and insights at the inaugural function of Student Induction and Orientation Program. I'm sure there are so many wonderful points that even the professors who are part of the program are learning. I would like to request all of you to definitely follow these principles. Wonderful guidance. Just imagine being yourself, having pride, respecting diversity, open to ideas, use knowledge properly, be goal oriented. Similarly, I'm really awed at the kind of humility that Sri Gopal Shankar Narayan had displayed. I think no plan is a good plan. Such a wonderful statement. And life journey is about serendipity. And the kindness that you should have, respecting women, empathy, and love for nature. These are wonderful words. Art of being friendly to everybody, respecting human nature, and definitely the point made by Professor Barnes, wonderful, wonderful. Choose different perspectives, volunteer, and always try to mingle among the crowd. These are wonderful messages. I think this is a note, diary to be kept with all of us. These are life messages. I'm very sure every student attending here, and you have to be confident in whatever you think. We love and respect your ideas. Welcome to Institute of Law once again. This program is possible due to the guidelines and the energies of our own Dr. Purvi. Without her leadership, this program will be wanting. Thank you, madam, for your guidance and being there. I thank the faculty team and experts of the orientation program for diligence and continuous cooperation and contribution. Staff members, how can we put together a program without the staff contribution, especially Dr. Gagandeep Singh has given continuous support. I thank you, sir, for your support. Special thanks to Professor Ayushi Sharma for being there and for all the coordination. I thank student batch and parents for their wonderful support and making the right choice at ILNU. I have to talk a lot. We will be talking this entire week as part of orientation program. But one thing I'd like to share with our parents, that is at ILNU, comfort of a mother's lap with father's caution and discipline is awaiting you all. So with all love, I thank you all for your support. And that is what we come to curtains to the inaugural function and program note for all of you, for the students. We meet again sharp at 1:45 for knowing your faculties. Wonderful vacation, my friends. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arun sir. There's just a little bit of an announcement. All the students have to come back at 1:45. We will send a reminder at 1:40, and you have to join from the same link that was provided to you for the morning session. Thank you so much. Have a very, very good day. And thank you to all the guests.
Thank you.
Professor Hardy, Professor Barnes, and Gopal. Thank you, DG sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you very much.
Have a very good day.
Okay, bye-bye.